Three wins on the trot for Seitz has meant Verdi has almost no wiggle room left. Another defeat will tie things up between the two of them. However, to throw a joker into the pile, today's event is the second and final oval round of the season. On top of that, the series is bringing in a short track tradition, heat racing. Will it open a door for one of our protagonists? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 8 of the PRL Indy Pro 2000 series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Despite USA Speedway being a shorter circuit, it's gonna be a fast one tonight. Let's head to our track guide to learn more about it.
Welcome to Lakeland, Florida. While the actual USA International Speedway is no longer with us in the real world, the track had a distinguished history, albeit short. The modern track we know of opened in 1995. The track saw its final race in 2008 before being torn down in 2012. In those 13 years, though, many regional series across the southeast U.S. and a few national series made stops. ARCA, ASA Late Models, NASCAR Southeast, and Cars Pro Cup all made visits here. The 3/4 mile long track features long straightaways and tighter corners, but those tighter corners are banked at 14 degrees, so you can build up quite a bit of speed here. This is part of the reason this track, the other being proximity to Daytona, was a popular spot for NASCAR Cup, Grand National, and truck teams to make testing stops here before NASCAR's ban on testing. While today a warehouse may encompass parts of where the track used to be, it's forever saved in the virtual world here on iRacing, so strap in for what's sure to be a wild race at USA International Speedway.
Well, they've changed up the format, which means some slightly shorter races, but regardless, we should get a good sense of what these cars will handle like on here, DJ.
We certainly should, Joe, and it's gonna be tricky around here. Now, this track is akin to a lot of short tracks that we see. It's sort of that elongated paperclip format, 14-degree bankings. It's very, very steep, and it's going to be very tricky for these Indy Pro cars to get that exactly right. There is a very hard line that they're going to find in between the banking and the apron. Do not want to touch that whatsoever. We've already seen a couple of guys fall foul of that here in practice. In terms of the actual racing itself, Joe, it's going to be tough. You really have to get the power down off the corner right and try to move to the inside. I don't think you're going to see a lot of double file racing through the corners. It's going to be about beating your opponent down into that inside line.
Should make it a tough day, and qualifying all the more important. We'll get to that coverage in a second, but before that, today's race is brought to you by SimMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring everyone together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SIMMSA.net.
The PRL Indy Pro 2000 series is also brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading services and trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit NinjaTrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance.
Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebutkicker.com. Now, for that championship, starting off with the pros, right now it is still Stephen Verity leading. But as I mentioned, Greg Seitz has been slashing that lead away. And if he gets as many points as he did over Verity last time, he'll be down to 2 points behind him after this round. Menino still is kind of hanging on, but he hasn't been as quick as those two in the last few races. Julio Palacio is currently sitting in fourth with Alex Gaillon, a pretty distant fifth of our top five in the pro standings. We also have an AM championship in this series, and DJ, why don't you run us through that?
Well, Tyler Gore still sits atop the championship, but very similar to Stephen Verity, he has had a rough couple of races. That lead is starting to get whittled away, but lucky for him, there hasn't been a dominant force to really come up and take the crown. But Brian Hoffman is doing his best. He's only 9 points back, and Adam Wright only 15 points back, with Barry Cochran in fourth, 2 points back of Wright, and Duhamel 2 points back of Cochran. So this can still really be open, especially with the heat race format, depending on who makes it into the show and who doesn't.
We also have a teams championship, so let's put that one up on screen. And up at the top there, SRT Esports Blue still narrowly ahead of Rust Racing. They've had so many podiums up at the front, so many wins up at the front, that it's kind of a shock they aren't leading. Blown Tranny Racing well back in third. And then you've got a distant fight for fourth between Parabola and Red Arrow, 10 points separating the pair of them. Race details going to be important here today, DJ. Why don't you try to make this simple for our viewers, I suppose.
Well, I'll do my best, Joe. We are working on the 8th round, as you said, of a 10-race championship. And so what they are doing for the race tonight is semi-simple. So there will be 3 15-lap heat races that take place after a 4-lap qualifying run. The qualifying run will set the order for those heat races. No yellows thrown at any point today, as we mentioned at the top of the broadcast. So out of those 3 heat races, the top 4 drivers will automatically advance to the A main. From there, anyone who does not finish in the top 4 in those heat races, they will advance to the 25-lap B main, or the consolation race. Now, out of that, the top 6 will advance, and they will be graded in the back of the A main. That'll bring the grand total of drivers in the 35-lap feature race to 18. So that is how this is going to work tonight, and we'll walk you through it as we go along. As always, though, in the series, we're running an open setup. Drive-through penalties, you can see there at 11 incidents, complete disqualification at 20, and you do get those added bonus points along the way.
I think you did a better job than I would have, to be frank, as we watch the qualifying. And right now, Alex Gaillon has the fastest time, and I do believe this will count as the pole bonus point here. Christopher Richards currently behind him, and not by much, about 3/100ths of a second currently. Waiting for a few of our quick runners to get out there. Verity and Seitz have both not set a time. They got plenty to do that. They get 4 laps to set their quickest one. Gaillon still ahead of Richards after his 4 done. Richards is done. I see Declan Eady on his final flyer as we watched Don Bowden come across the line. Let's see what the 13 can do.
Well, and we're going to jump back here, take a look at Jacob Axton. That looks like an outlap there from Jacob. Jacob's had a good run, and there goes Edie to the top of the charts.
Ooh, so bonus point in the hands of the number 13 now, as we're watching Barnett. Stays in 21st, his last lap not counting. Must have scraped the wall ever so slightly. In the meantime, looks like Seitz and Verity, the 2 teammates, are now out on track. Are they going to spoil everybody's fun and claim the top 2 spots? Now, they won't have to race each other, interestingly, in the heat races if they are back-to-back in qualifying. They would have to be about 4 positions apart from each other to wind up in the same race.
They would indeed. And here comes Verity across the line for the first time. That's a 72.990. We're going to go on board with him, Joe. This gives you just an example of how easy it is to scrape that wall and pick up a 0x. Verity currently sits 9th, and there is that very rough apron line like I talked about. You see him feeding on the power, trying to get it up there. Verity's second lap a little bit faster, but he's still about 2/10 off.
Greg Seitz is coming around on his second lap. His first one was good enough for 8th, got bumped to 9th. And does he improve? Yes, he does, by about a 10th. But he will go up to 6th with that. Verity's third lap is not quicker. Ooh, that's an interesting development.
It is indeed. Here we go with the challenger, the winner of the last 3 races. He crosses the line a little bit faster that time for Greg Seitz. I don't think that's going to bump him up the order at all. So here he goes. That's his last lap he's working on. Here comes Aaron Roofs, though. He's currently 2nd.
Wow. Aaron Roofs with a great lap to get him onto the proverbial front row. Greg Seitz a 17.6, and he takes that away.
Oh, that is a mega lap from Greg Seitz there, just absolutely pulling everything together and extracting everything he can from that car.
Verity winds up in 8th, and I do not think that means the two of them will wind up in the same heat, as it's 1st, 4th, and 7th, I want to say, that will be together. So he just missed it. We have anybody else still setting times? I see Kyle Strykar is just hopping out, and he should have enough for at least 1 or 2.
Yeah, here comes Kyle. You see him lining that car up, diving it down. This will be a great angle. You can see on the exit of the corner, trying to run that car up to this as high up under the wall as you can go. That'll really help to maximize speed around here. Kyle looks like he's a little afraid of it right now, pulling the wheel back towards center. And there you can see with those lap times, 18.2, 18.3, not exactly the fastest for Kyle.
But he's going to run out of time, so only gets 2 of them. And that will end our qualifying and bring us to our first heat of the day. 3 of them out there. And the grid for this first one will have Greg Seitz on the pole, Alex Guyon starting in 2nd. Frank Nguyen will be starting in 3rd, with Sean Duhamel in P4 and Paul Wildridge in 5th. DJ?
Bart Cook will be lining up to the outside of Paul in 6th, followed by Olivier Legault and Brian Hotham in 7th and 8th. Neil Alexander will be 9th, followed by your AM Championship leader, Tyler Gore, in 10th, and Dave Peterson in 11th to round out the field.
And this is going to be a very short race, 15 laps that they're running here today. And the sun is slowly setting. It's a little bit cloudy out there, so it's been quite cool. Only 83 degrees Fahrenheit on the track surface itself. And just a tiny little bit of wind that shouldn't hopefully mess them up too much. This track probably looking a little bit different here today in real life, as this is unfortunately one of the few on the iRacing service that actually no longer exists.
Yeah, this is one that has since been demolished, and this is now preserved on the iRacing service. But Joe, you were talking about that cloud cover and just how cool it is. I think that's going to be really crucial to watch on the first lap. You know, normally when you're driving an oval race like this, you're thinking about trying to make the best move you can into turn 1. But these tires are going to be a little bit chilly, and so these guys are going to want to be careful about it and not go too hard into that corner with cold tires.
Especially with how quick it is around here, I imagine if it goes away from you, it goes away in a hurry. As they now take off behind the Mustang pace car. And that will allow Greg Seitz to have control of the field once that Mustang peels into pit lane. I believe it'll be 2 laps around here, with this being less than a mile of an oval circuit. So they'll have at least a little bit of time to try and get them warmed up. I would think the wise drivers would be trying to game that a little bit and use the brakes or do what they can to find something.
Most certainly, and you see a little bit there as we ride on board with Frank Nguyen. You can just see that ever slight ebb and flow that he's giving there. That's just a little bit of that kind of light on the brakes. You don't want to check up the guy behind you. But I think Frank is going to be one to watch here. You know, his sort of coming out moment in this series was back at Phoenix, and so he's a little bit of a good driver here on these ovals. He'll be one to watch starting off 3rd.
I think you're right, and clearly he's qualified decently, at least in this first heat, and track position is all important. Remember, it is the top 4 that will automatically advance. That does not mean that they are out of the feature for the rest of the night. They can earn their way back in through the consolation, but it's going to make life that little bit more hard. All right, right. Sights waiting for the Mustang to leave. And then he'll have control to choose when he wants to accelerate. He goes immediately as it waves here for round 8 of the Precision Racing League Indy Pro 2000 series. Down into the first corner already, pretty much getting single file amongst most of the drivers. In fact, our first side-by-side battle is down for 8th between Legault and Alexander.
Yeah, Joe, and Olivier Legault really did not have a good run there. He got down onto that apron, was really struggling to get it down. But there you see, that's Legault trying to take a look up the inside of Neil Alexander, going for it. That's going to open him up to Tyler Gore behind him, though, potentially.
Absolutely, as we ride on board, looking back from Alexander up to Legault, and he's going to try and take a peek to the inside. A very late dive. Tyler Gore has to abandon it, and going high up the banking, Neil Alexander once again leaves the door open, sticking his foot through Legault, manages to get a wheel in, but he can't complete it.
Yeah, it's very, very tricky. You've got to be late on the power around here to get it going. We're going to jump back up. There's a good battle up front. Duhamel and Wildridge.
Wildridge was the one making an attempt on Sean, but couldn't make it stick. Sean was threatening for a bit. Oh, was that a clip of the wall there from Wildridge? He got awful close.
I think it was very, very easy to do. You have to be patient coming through these corners. The instinct is to get onto that accelerator a little bit early, and if you get onto it early, that's exactly what will happen. You'll oversteer up into the corner, understeer up into the corner, but here comes Wildridge again, fighting down to that inside. He's going to try to take that line away.
It's given space. Duhamel keeps the speed up, though, up on the high side. Starts to use the momentum to pull ahead, but Wildridge stays with it. He's got the shorter line, and that time he's going to make it stick. This opens an opportunity for Hotham. He's looking to get into 5th and maybe sneak his way into the feature here. Remember, that pass for Wildridge means if he keeps it, he does not have to race in the consolation.
He does indeed, and now that Sean Duhamel has a mirror full of Brian Hotham, that is going to be a big thing that is going to help him pull ahead. Hotham doing a good job of just constantly poking his nose to the inside, trying to get Duhamel to bite a little bit. Ooh, I thought for a second Duhamel was going to lose those left side tires over onto the yellow.
No changes up at the front. Sights, Guyon, Nguyen are your top 3. Have just been cruising around. We're already halfway through this race. As this battle starts to dissipate, looks like drivers might have to settle into a rhythm. Let's look at Greg Sights for a moment. That's 74, currently running laps in the 17.7, 17.6 range, which that's actually pretty close to his qualifying pace, wasn't it?
It is indeed. I think he came in, it may even be a little bit faster. He came in on a quality on about a 17.6 or so. Also, just a heads up to fans of Tyler Gore or Olivier Legault, those two made a little bit of contact. It looked like they have both parked it in the pits.
And again, no cautions here today, so the drivers, if they make a mistake, they're essentially done for the day, unless they somehow manage to avoid the wall. Closest battle still between Hotham and Cook, and actually Duhamel, I guess you could count in that as well, is still about half a second ahead. But they've been stuck where they are for a couple laps now.
Yeah, and that's a little bit of the aero wash coming into play here, Joe. You see as we ride on board with Bart Cook, that's really smart of him to see what he is doing there. You watch as he comes through the corners, not taking the exact line that Hotham ahead of him is. He's just trying to get a little bit of clean air onto the front of the car. And there you see it's allowed him to close up and maximize that speed down the straightaways and get in tucked in behind the draft.
He caught the apron big time. You could see the car wash up immediately. But we've got to go to Greg Sights because the 74 is taking the white flag. 1 to go, and in a little less than 20 seconds, he'll claim the victory for the first heat race by a good chunk over Alex Guyon, I might note. Down and around through 3 and 4. Greg Sights, your winner of the first heat of the day. Looks like Guyon will follow him into the feature. Nguyen will as well, who takes 3rd. And Wildridge, with a brave pass, manages to sneak through as well, taking the last advancing spot in 4th.
You know, I have to say, I think the drive of that race does go to Paul Wildridge, really and truly just showing exactly how you got to get things done here at a short track. You've got to stick your nose in if you see the advantage. And I think a lot of drivers lining up in these next 2 heats are going to be taking notes off of exactly what Paul just did.
No doubt. And our grid for the next heat, Declan Eady will start on the pole. Michael Broomhead will be P2, and Stephen Verity, our points leader, will start in 3rd. Adam Wright is 4th, and then Julio Palacio starts 5th.
Nicholas Collender will be lining up 6th, followed by Brett Accord in 7th. Kyle Streichars will be 8th, followed by Donald Olson in 9th. And bringing up the back of the field will be Jacob Exton in 10th.
And again, the drivers have time to watch one another racing. So if you were watching that first race, you're getting ready to grid up for this one, DJ. What's the biggest takeaway that you've had?
Biggest takeaway is passing is possible. You can do it, but it looks like that you've got to be able to be down on the inside. The flip of that is we saw just how long some of those guys were able to hold around the high side of the track. So that is a defensible position. So basically all I mean is there is opportunity for good racing. It's not nearly as dire as a single file parade that we were kind of speculating it might be.
Yeah, it's good to see. Give us some interest out there. Will Declan Eady manage to take away this heat victory? It's not worth for much other than better starting position. It's no particular points. They're going to score the consolation race according to those that do not advance from 19th on down, essentially. With the 18 that will go on to the feature. Second pace lap. And it is Eady who will be able to determine the start here. Broomhead will be to his outside. Last time, Seitz got the jump on everybody. Let's see what Declan learned from that.
Well, Greg was able to get the power down exactly when he wanted to just after the apex and get it there. It's a tricky move to do. Very easy to spin the tires, but we'll have to keep an eye on Declan Eady, and he is going to be hoping to do the exact same thing.
Here we go, round 3 and 4. There goes the pace car. Eady's off quick. Oh my goodness. And Broomhead got absolutely swamped. Adam Wright doesn't manage to get by though. Looks like Verity took advantage of it. That puts him into 2nd, and that will be valuable. As I said, better starting positions in the main. And we got a wreck behind him. Looks like Collender, Olson, and Streichars all get involved.
And I take partial credit for that. I was just saying that it was able to defend your line around the outside, and that's what Nicholas went to do. Here you can see it off of the start. That is him in the blue and white car along the top line, trying to run the top. He just runs out of room there, a little bit of contact, and that sends him spinning around.
It's like a slight bit of net code myself. Collander's the only one that has to take to the pits. Exton has also called it a day early. Olson still going. Streichars is still going. Up at the front, it is Declan Eady, and already with a 2nd lead over Verity. In fact, Verity, who's managed to overtake Broomhead, has got about a half a second gap, so that's keeping him safe. But Broomhead is not. He might lose another position. Adam Wright behind him is threatening.
He certainly is. We have seen this fluorescent bright 80s car come up through the field before. It looks like he is starting to challenge. We're right on board with Adam right now, diving it down into turn 1. You see him there trying to take that little bit of a different line like we talked about. Keep as much clean air on the wing through the corners as possible. Late shift up through the gears, just trying to maximize that speed. It looks like that Broomhead may have taken a little bit too much of that apron there.
He drops back now, and I wonder if this is going to be a theme that we're seeing as well. It looks like after riding in the wake of the car ahead, drivers just can't keep the grip up. You talked about it earlier, how the drivers just seem to get that bubble between them. Speaking of the bubble, is it just me or has Verity gained some time on Eady?
It's not just you, though. Stephen Verity, our current points leader, driving a very good line there through 3 and 4, putting that car exactly where he needs to do. He's been able to cut that gap down to under a 2nd.
Marginally faster yet again, less than a 10th. Let's see if he can repeat it this time around. as they come across. They've still got about half the race left to go in this heat. 17.7, quickest lap of the race for Edie. 17.780. So that time, Verity a little slower.
Yeah, very much looking like these two leaders are just sort of, seesawing back and forth. I think Edie knows that Verity's trying to come up behind him as best as possible, and Edie can't really focus on his mirrors. He has just got to drive the race that he needs to run here and let Verity do what he can.
Verity did gain a little bit more yet again, 17.6. I think the first one to kick into those 17.6 so far this race. Slowing up a little bit that time. And Verity loses ground once again. It's seesawing back and forth. We're right on board with Steven. And these cars, very consistent in speed. They don't get very fast, but they also don't slow down a whole lot through these corners.
No, they really don't. It's sort of that perfect happy medium in open wheel racing. There's just enough downforce to make them get around the corners fast, but not enough engine underneath the bonnet to make them really launch off the line too fast. But it is surprisingly tricky to get it right, Joe. You got to do just the minorest bit of brush braking coming through that corner, trying to get the car to rotate. You can't just do a full lift, really.
Going to be 2 to go at the line. Edie's keeping it at 0.7 of a second. Verity's at least put a challenge on, but it's too little too late for the 04. Unless we get a mistake out of the 13. Just doesn't seem like he really has much of a realistic opportunity, especially with how tough it is to pass here today. White flag for Declan Edie as he comes around. Remember, Declan, I believe, won in our third round. So he's looking to put win number 2 on it, and it won't be the feature, but it'll be a heat win for Declan Edie as he takes victory today. Verity will advance in second, Broomhead will advance in third, and then Adam Wright is the last of them getting through automatically in fourth.
And the rounding at the back of your order, there will be Julio Palacio, Kyle Strykars, Brett Accord, Donald Wilson, Nicholas Collender, and Jacob Exton. Some of those guys having a little bit of damage, but one more heat to go here, Joe.
Indeed. Let's go through that starting grid. It is Aaron Roofs starting on the pole with Christopher Richards in second and Owen McLaughlin in third. Then Don Bowden will be P4 and Takeshi Kita is fifth.
Sammy Bridges will be lining up in sixth, followed by Lucio Vargas, Matthew Gunderson in eighth, followed by Daniel Barnett and Barry Cochran to round out the back of the field.
All right. This will determine third and every 4 from there on back on where they start for the feature. And then, again, those bottom 6 will not advance to the feature automatically. They will have to work their way in the consolation race after this, which will be a little bit longer than these 15-lap races, but still will have no caution laps. And drivers will have to do all they can to try and make up ground quite quickly to see if they can make that last gasp effort to get into the big show.
Yeah, I think that B main is going to be a really, really interesting race to watch. But Joe, up here, it's going to be very interesting as well. We've seen a lot of these AM drivers who we normally don't see towards the pointy end of the field because of this heat race format really be able to get themselves up in the front. Just looking at this heat right here, Christopher Richards and Don Bowden, 2 AM drivers starting second and fourth. So really good showing from all of them here today.
It'll be fascinating to see how they fare in the feature then as well if they get through it. I mean, the other thing about the AM stuff is that's based on your road I rating, not your oval I rating. So those guys who are pretty quick on the circle tracks have a chance to try and show everybody up.
Indeed they do. It was frankly my silver bullet when I was doing a lot of this exact series. You come to an oval and you be able to run some left turns really, really fast and surprise a bunch of guys. So iRacing's obviously changed the way they do that now, but certainly makes for an interesting surprise for folks.
My dad was actually a little annoyed that they had changed that because he called me one day and he said, I got my first oval win. I said, congratulations, where? And he said, MotorSports. I gave him a little bit of a sideways look. I didn't feel like that counted, but his stats say it counts. Won't do that anymore, unfortunately. As the pace car now heads into the pits, Aaron Roofs is off as the green flag waves for heat number 3. Richards is pretty on it compared to what we saw from the other starts. He takes it up high, tries to cut down, and that actually might help him. Look at him gain. Oh, we got another car into the wall. That was Bowden, who is going to clip 2 more. Barnett and Vargas with big hits in the back.
Very, very nasty hit there in the back there. You can see the carnage.
Watch the replay. Yeah, just understeered like you've been talking about. Tried to keep his foot in it and paid the price.
Yeah, and I think that's a little bit of combination of just getting on the throttle a hair too early and just a little bit of cool tires coming out to bite you.
Well, Richards has not given up on it. He's staying with Roofs, and they're bringing along both McLaughlin and Kita. This is the closest I want to say we've seen our top 5 stay after the first laps. Granted, we're only starting lap 4 now, but this is a relatively tight fight.
It really is, and I have to attribute a lot of that back there to Aaron Roofs. He didn't have the lightning start that we saw Edie and Sainz have off the line. You saw Richards almost be able to get the jump on him going through turn 1, taking that very wide arcing line. Richards doing a great job here of taking alternate lines off of the corner. Look how tighter he is coming off that line, Joe. Maximizing clean air onto the wing that allows him to get straighter faster.
That time, though, that wasn't a good exit there for him. I feel like he's got to do something with this soon, though, because the good's going to rub off those tires if he stays this close to the 26 for too long. We're down to 10 to go at this point, and already those top 4 that looked like they were almost nose to tail are suddenly much farther apart.
Yeah, they're starting to spread out ever so slightly. Specifically, it looks like that McLaughlin's starting to fall back a little bit from Richards, but Kita staying close behind Aaron Roofs, then responding to Richards' quick pace, setting the fast lap of the race.
Down through 1 and 2 once again. Roofs up at the front, being chased by the red, green, and black number 49 of Christopher Richards. A little bit closer behind them, to be honest, for 3rd. McLaughlin has Kita on his tail by a little over half a second.
Does indeed. Takeshi doing a good job as we ride on board with him here. Doing a good job of being able to hold up behind the best he can, keeping that gap at about a half a second up. You see him there trying to take that sort of Christopher Richards-inspired line of going a little bit more shallow off the corner itself. I think for these guys that have these big gaps at this point, this is where experimentation starts to come into play, Joe. They're going to be thinking about how they can position the car when they get into the race.
Looks like Sammy Bridges unfortunately spun. Now, this is a strange one because he ducks down onto the apron, almost like he's trying to let Gunderson by. Here, it just suddenly pulls off, and while trying to race on the dirty apron is just not going to work. You can see he winds up backwards and eventually decides to take a tow rather than try to get in the way of the leaders.
Yeah, and that's a particularly interesting spin there. When you looked at his gearing, he was in 5th gear all the way to the time he was down onto the apron. So it didn't look like he was downshifting. I wonder if he just missed his braking zone or something like that.
Very odd indeed. We're down to 3 laps to go at this point. Aaron Roofs still holding himself a good margin over Christopher Richards. Nearly a second now between the 26 and the 49. And down to 2 to go. All he has to do is keep this clean and steady.
Oh, that's harder said than done around a tricky track here like this. Although his tires will be up to temperature at this point. We have lost about a degree of track temp down to about 82 degrees. So as the sun continues to set here around USA, it's going to continue to chill those tires.
Final lap for Aaron Roofs. Looking for a heat win here in the 3rd heat of the day. Down through 3 and 4, the number 26 takes it onto the front stretch and claims victory. with Christopher Richards coming home in second. He will automatically advance to the feature. Owen McLaughlin will from third, and Takeshi Kita will from fourth. Everybody else is about to race again in a brief moment.
Yeah, Joe, and this is where this is going to get particularly interesting. More cars than we've had on track up to this point. Going to have a whopping 19 cars ready to go for the B main.
That's a lot bigger fields, and without the cautions, it's going to be in a lot more peril, especially for those at the back. Up at the front, though, it is going to be Sean Duhamel who starts with the pole, the best chance to try and work his way through to the feature. Julio Palacio will be next to him. Barry Cox third with Brian Hotham in P4. Kyle Strykars will start fifth with Matthew Gunderson in sixth. Then it's Bart Cook in seventh, followed by Brett Accord to his outside in eighth. Row 5, it's Sammy Bridges starting ninth and Neil Alexander in 10th.
Donald Olson's going to line up in 11th, followed by Lucio Vargas in 12th. Tyler Gore in 13th, followed by Nicholas Collender. Brett Barrett will start off in the next row, followed by Olivier Legault. And then to bring up the back of the field, it will be Jacob Exton, Don Bowden, and Dave Peterson.
As they take off behind the pace car, this will be the top 6 now that will advance to the feature. They're the last ones to get in, and they will be gridded up at the back of the field behind all of those who automatically advanced from the heat races. So it is still important here, and even if they aren't up in the top 6 there, we mentioned it before, DJ, those points, if they want those points, they've got to make positions in the back too.
Exactly, and I think that's especially going to come into consideration with some of these AM drivers. Now, we've got a lot of AM drivers that are going to be in that A main to begin with, but remember, the way that they score those points is it's not where you finish overall, it's where you finish relative to your other AM drivers. So getting further up the order, even if it is back in, say, 19th, 20th position, you still want to do that because you can pick up a good haul of points.
Sun is now definitely gone down as we race under the lights here in Lakeland, Florida. And Duhamel will have control of the field shortly as we come around the backstretch on our second pace lap. I think we may have lost Sammy Bridges. Yep, unfortunately, looks like he has lost a connection. So Sammy is not going to be able to take part in the B main, and he is out for the night. It's sad to see that he didn't even get a chance to try it. But trying to get on the loud pedal is Sean Duhamel, and the green flag waves. It's already a battle for second. Palacio on the outside of Cochran. Cochran takes advantage and slips into P2.
Really good head-up move there from Barry Cochran. It looks like we've got the majority of the field coming out of that second corner doing well, but these top 3 stay nice and close.
We had a car spinning Strykars, unfortunately, across the road as everybody tries to avoid, and he manages to save it and does not wreck the car. He had a little bit of a touch. Hopefully he doesn't have damage from that, but otherwise, he didn't hit the wall.
This is super impressive there. You see he just dove into that corner. Yeah, a little bit of contact there. Oh, don't know if he's going to have any problem with that suspension or not.
Well, he's running, but it's 16th. Looks like Jacob Exton is coming into the pits, and Matthew Gunderson. Not sure if that was involved. As we check in on Barry Cochran, he may have got into second place, but Palacio wants it back, and he is in danger because Hotham is right behind him. If he opens the door, the 27 could pounce.
He could indeed. I thought for a second there that Hotham was going to be able to pounce. He took a very wide line into the corner, but wasn't able to get the power down when he needed to. But these second through fourth place drivers really scrapping it out well, but that's allowing Sean Duhamel to peek away ever so slightly at the front.
Last of our drivers that will advance as they sit right now is Brett Accord. He is in sixth with actually not much of a buffer. And in fact, Neil Alexander is the one trying to chase him down.
He is, and Neil is just trying to get in there, but there we're going to ride on board with him here. You can see Neil just trying to beat in the paces as best as possible. And Joe, I can report that Tyler Gore has spun off into the wall.
And he takes a tow, so it looks like that's enough that he won't be able to recover from it. Back up to the top. Duhamel is only ahead of Cochran by about 0.3 of a second. Once again, we got ourselves a race up at the front.
We do indeed. Cochran has just slowly but surely been pulling that rope in, drawing in Duhamel the absolute best that he can and doing a great job, and he's pulling along Julio Palacio with him, as well as Brian Hotham.
They plunge down to 3 and 4 one more time. Duhamel's making good use of the track position that he's managed to get here in this consolation race. I don't think he's going to give it up easily, as Cochran stays within about half a second. He's also got Julio Palacio on that orange, white, and black machine, staying even closer than that. We're going to watch him on board on his roll hoop.
And there you can see it, just stalking behind these two as you see Brett Accord setting the fastest lap of the race as of right now. A little bit of lap traffic in front of him, staying up nice and high. That's going to be good for the leaders. There you see Cochran having to dive down to the inside, may catch Palacio out ever so slightly, but no, he's going to be able to get around as well. That's
the limping Kyle Strykars that's just trying to see what he can salvage here. He has picked up a couple spots as other people have had issues so far, so there is merit. And up at the front, my goodness, it is getting incredibly close between Cochran and Duhamel. That lap traffic did not agree with the 617.
No, it did not, but there you can see Palacio also starting to make a run. Hotham right behind that battle for second, really heating up as well. Palacio got a bad exit into the corner and checked up Hotham, and that allowed Brett Cook to get into it. But here comes Hotham on the inside. Is he going to go for the move? Looks like he's going to back out.
He tried for it, but Palacio's going to deny him. Gave him space at the apex as they come around through the backstretch. He's still right on that gearbox. The 27 wants to try and do what he can to get those better starting positions for the A main, but he has to remember, if he wrecks, then he won't even get to the A main, so he's got to see the checkered flag here.
Exactly, he does. But Joe, all of these drivers that you see on your screen right there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, those are the advancing positions. Oh, as Cochran looked to the inside of Duhamel. Not a real committed move there, but just trying to get into Hamel's head.
We have yet to see a pass for the lead here tonight in any of the heats or here in the consolation race. Coming down through 1 and 2 yet again. Cochran, looked a little slow off the corner. Here comes Palacio. Remember, he started in second, and even though he wants it, he's not able to get it. Behind him, Hotham also trying to square things off. Everybody watching the domino effect. There goes Hotham, also sticking his nose down in. 4 laps to go, and they're getting a little antsy.
They're getting antsy, they're getting feisty, and the racing is getting better and better.
That was Brett Accord, who just got smashed into the outside wall by Bart Cook. Are they both able to keep the pace up? They've got about 2 seconds over Bowden. Let's see how bad the damage looks from this angle.
Oh, and there you can see it. That's Cook that just drifted up the track coming through one there. You see that, hit into the wall for Accord. It looks like definitely Cook is able to continue on. Accord 8 tenths up the road to Don Bowden.
2 laps to go. Duhamel still clinging by a thread to this lead. And Barry Cochran, it's not been for a lack of trying. Here we go. Another opportunity, almost getting an overlap, but he's not brave enough on the inside.
He's not, but don't be surprised just trying to see that move shake out during the course of the race itself. Here comes Palacio. Is Palacio going to try anything? No. Super late. Lots of speed for Cochran to the line.
And it's going to be Duhamel who wins the consolation. Cochran will advance behind him in second. Palacio third. Hotham in fourth. Bart Cook and Don Bowden, your top 6 that will make it to the feature. Everybody from there on down, sadly, will not advance. And their day is done. Where they finished are the points they are going to score. That brings us to our feature with 18 cars going for the most points of the day and the overall win. It is Greg Seitz who will line up on the pole, with Declan Eady starting next to him. Aaron Roofs will be P3, and Alex Guyon will be 4th. Stephen Verity, P5 for him, is then followed by Christopher Richards in 6th and Frank Nguyen in 7th. Michael Broomhead starts 8th, and then the next row has Owen McLaughlin in 9th and Paul Wildridge in 10th.
Adam Wright's going to be starting off in 11th, followed by Takeshi Kita in 12th. Sean Duhamel will be 13th, followed by Barry Cochran and Julio Palacio. Those three wanting to continue their battle from the B main, as well as Brian Hotham, who will start 16th. And behind them, the last of your B main qualifiers, Bart Cook and Don Bowden.
Now, we've talked a lot about trying to get the tires heated up, and obviously that is looking a little tricky, especially last round, or last heat consolation race. We saw a few cars slipping up early. What about with the fact that we're not going to have any cautions? What is that going to do to the tires at the end of 35 laps? Is there any worry about wearing them out?
There is a semi amount of it, yes, Joe. These tires will start to wear, and I think between about lap 20 and 35, you're gonna see a little bit of slippage on these tires. So they're gonna have to be careful about it, and I think it's gonna do two things. Number one, it's gonna allow for a couple more mistakes to be made, not something that'll send you into the wall necessarily, but maybe just overrunning your braking zone ever so slightly, sliding up the track when you're trying to get the power on, something like that, and that's gonna open the door for an overtaking opportunity. And the other thing is it's going to make those overtaking opportunities a lot more interesting, because you're not entirely sure how your tires are going to respond when they're that warm.
Okay, so into a little bit of unknown territory here. As we get ready to go racing, 35 laps, and we are in round 8 of the PRL Indy Pro 2000 series. It's the last oval race of the season. So any oval meisters will be hungry to try and take advantage of this and get some valuable points in whatever battle they are most concerned with. Greg Seitz, though, is concerned with the championship. He still is behind, but he's been on a tear with 3 wins in a row. And the green flag is out for the feature race. He gets a huge jump over Declan Eady. The battle for third is still side by side with Bruce to the inside of Guyon down into turn 1. They're going to get single file. We already got a spinner. That is going to be Paul Wildridge being collected by Broomhead, who spun.
Yeah, just like Broomhead didn't really have the grip up on that high side, tried to keep it under him and lost it. There you see the two of them. Going to jump back to a quick replay here to check it out. This is going to be Wildridge on the outside. You see Wildridge in the purple start to lose it, and nowhere, or excuse me, that was Broomhead who lost it. Nowhere for Wildridge to go.
Indeed, he just kind of was caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. Both of them have since entered the pits. We only had 17 starters, as I do not see Bart Cook out here as well. Meanwhile, that was a battle for third still, as coming down into 3 and 4, Roofs finding himself shuffled back by Alex Guyon.
Alex Guyon really trying to do what he can here. He is up 1 position, and now behind them, that little checkup has allowed for Verity to be caught by Christopher Richards. Richards trying to make a good charge here. They're gonna bunch up a little bit. Looks like Richards has got a better line coming off at the corner, but Verity able to carry more momentum down the front straightaway.
If Verity finishes where he is, he will be out of the points lead at the end of this race. He's got to start making up some positions. Roofs is his next target as we watch from on board Christopher Richards. He just has to be careful that he doesn't offer up an opportunity for the 49 to move him down a position instead of him moving up 1.
Well, and there you saw, Steven, a little drifting up the track ever so slightly mid-corner. That's allowing Richards to catch up. He did it again there through 3 and 4. Richards has got to run. He's got to line it up right here. Takes a little bit of a wider apex into the corner, trying to maximize the momentum. Just can't get it to go.
Car does not look happy. Verity understeering incredibly bad as he comes off of 4. We see a poke from Richards. Nope, not this time. Oh, but he's much closer and he's much faster coming off the turn. Almost loses as he tries to dive to the inside and then checks up. Doesn't quite come yet, but he's got a lot of laps left to try and effect the pass.
Certainly does. I just have to postulate that maybe Christopher Richards is running a little bit less downforce in that car than a lot of his competitors. Any sort of movement on the wheel makes it look twitchy, but you can see just how much he closes up down the straights. Here he goes again, trying for it. Nothing doing.
This is battles all happening behind sights, Edie, Guyon, and Roofs in our top 4. Really, no battle between them. They've all been spreading apart. Instead, we're going to jump down to Palacio, one of our drivers that got in through the B main. He's holding off Hotham behind him.
We ride on board with Brian Hotham here. You can see it. This is literally a battle that has just transferred over from the B main to the A main. You can see just how much steering lock he's having to put into that car. Now, the really, really great drivers at that point, Joe, when you get through the corner, it is one of the most counterintuitive things in the world. You want to turn into the wall, unload the tires a little bit, and get the car to re-grip if you're really fighting understeer.
Something I've never been able to master, and that's probably why I'm slow at ovals. As we continue to watch him down through 3 and 4, Palacio holding him at bay. Now, this is the part where we've been getting kind of used to things at about 15 laps, and the tires have worn in, but we haven't seen much past here. A 20-lap consolation race, and they've still got 15 more to go. Actually, 20 more to go, excuse me.
Exactly. This is where you're going to have to look at anybody who was nice and kind to those tires early on. Maybe wasn't moving up through the field as fast as we thought they would, but instead was playing the long game in the tires. This is where their race is going to start to come in.
Meanwhile, we're going back to Richards now, who's being hunted by Frank Nguyen. Verity was up in front of him and very close not long ago. Instead, Nguyen has cut it down to about 0.7 of a second, and Richards has to look in his mirrors.
He does, and it wasn't a big mistake there from Christopher. It was just a sort of slow and steady ebb away from Verity, being able to pull away bit by bit by bit, putting in better and better laps. So Richards now is going to have to be looking ahead as well as behind, as Nguyen is certainly closing on him. Is
currently one of our best battles on the track among those. We do have a little bit of a fight behind them, though. I do see Brian Hotham currently being chased by Bowden and Wright. This is for 12th, 13th, and 14th. In fact, good run for Bowden coming down the front stretch. He takes a little bit of a peek. Hotham's going to give him space at the apex. And as they come off the corner, they are even on the power as it's a drag race down to 3 and 4. Once again, Hotham forced to give away that inside line. Bowden's almost got it done. Can he do it in 3 turns? Yes, he can. And unfortunately, Adam Wright is right there to pick up the pieces, but Hotham denies him. He does indeed able to carry that momentum well along the high side, and I think Wright could have had that move, but he looks like he got his left side tires too far down over onto the apron, had to catch the car a little bit, but Adam is very much up the tailpipe here of Brian Hotham right now, just absolutely trying to apply pressure and move up to that 12th place position. He's not giving up on this one. He's the second to last car on the lead lap. Sean Duhamel, the only other one behind him that has not been lapped by our leaders. And I don't think that'll last very long because Seitz is on the same straightaway as them at this point. And that's really where you're going to see a big wrench thrown into the works. There you see Wright taking a very low line into the corner, dipping down once again, and having to catch the car. Because before, when we saw some of these lap cars come into the picture, Joe, they were just on their own. But now we've got battles to attend to. That's a good point. And they're certainly going to be paying attention to what they're doing and not necessarily watching the leaders and knowing when to jump aside. Takeshi Kita, who is in the red, white, and blue number 30, has Owen McLaughlin just behind him in the yellow and black number 90. For those curious about our AM championship, by the way, Christopher Richards is our highest AM in the number 49. He sits in 6th. He does indeed, and so that's going to be a good run for Christopher. But as we continue to ride on board here, you see McLaughlin pedaling that car around the track, taking it up to 5th gear, letting it run down, jump it down into 4th. That's a good move. Don't want to go down into 3rd and run the risk of spinning the tires. He's really gaining some times here on Takeshi. Takeshi looking very wiggly through the middle of 3 and 4. He's awful close now as he threatens him coming through 1 and 2. Can he withstand the buffeting air of that number 30? Down into 3 and 4. Looks pretty good so far, but he needs to run off the corner. Oh, that's not going to do it.
No, it's not. And you saw there a lap ago, it looked like he had just an absolutely mega run going in through there. But it looks like he had to check himself up at the apex. Didn't expect Takeshi to slow down quite so much.
And Palacio has lost a spot to Bowden, but Bowden spun. Wow, what a save by the 5. We didn't see it on screen. He pulled his own little Danny Sullivan. Let's watch this.
All right, so there goes Bowden down to the inside here of 3 and 4. Julio gives him plenty of space. He's playing footsie with that inside line, and it looks like the power just wants to snap away from him, and he caught that. How did he do that?
Fantastic stuff. Way to stay cool in the moment. And he did it on the grass on top of it so easily. Could have let it spun around and maybe clipped the wall, but no damage. He continues on. Our leader, Greg Seitz, has been caught by Declan Eady, but as we've seen a lot of times in it is split by half a second, and Eady can't do much more than that.
He can't, and this is where I have to think that advantage may swing back a little bit to Greg Seitz here. Eady has been pushing a lot on those last couple of laps, just pedaling away as hard as he can, and Greg has been able to be a little bit less forceful on those tires. The only thing that's going to come into play here is that there's a little bit of traffic up ahead of Greg.
So, can he manage to keep himself together and take his 4th win in a row as they continue to cycle around with only 3 laps left? I can tell you that on top of this, we've got a good battle between McLaughlin and Kita still. Kita trying to fend him off, but with a much closer gap between those two.
There you can see it on your screen. That's McLaughlin still just trying to find that clean air. Runs to the outside a little bit. Now he's going to dive to the inside. Late on the brakes, but Kita's going to hold it around the outside. Momentum's going to stay relatively even between the two, but Kita able to keep up more momentum down the straight.
And he's going to get 1 lap to go as he crosses the start-finish line because Greg Seitz is already on the backstretch. This is going to mean the championship lead for an exuberant Greg Seitz here today at Lakeland, Florida. A win for the 74 with Eady following him home closely, but not close enough. And Alex Guyon rounding out our podium. Here's the battle between Kita and McLaughlin. And that one went to Kita by less than 1/10 of a second.
Yeah, it looked like coming across the line, the McLaughlin had a good run out of the corner. If that start-finish line was a little bit farther along, he may have had him. We're going to watch it here on replay.
Let's see. This would be a good one to see just how tight it was between them. It's down into the final corner. Or is this? Yeah, that's into the final turn. Run off the line. Had the momentum. And it's just not there, sadly. But that's going to take us to a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back soon with our unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so don't go away. welcome back to USA International Speedway. Greg Seitz managed to take the win in the feature race today. That pole to victory is certainly going to be a very proud one for him, as that will get him the points lead for the first time, possibly, I think, all season. Declan Eady finished second behind him with Alex Gaillon in third. You've got Aaron Roofs in fourth, and finally to the man who was our points leader until recently, Stephen Verity, having to settle for fifth today. Frank Nguyen will be P6 and Christopher Richards seventh. Then it's Takeshi Kita eighth, Owen McLaughlin ninth, and Barry Cochran rounding out your top 10.
In 11th was Julio Palacio. You saw him have a continuing battle from that B-main with Brian Hotham behind them. And 13th was Adam Wright, followed by Don Bowden. Sean Duhamel came home 15th, followed by Michael Broomhead. Both of those cars having a little bit of damage along the way, as well as Paul Wildridge and Bart Cook.
Looks like we've got our winner ready to talk to us, Greg Seitz, with a victory both in his heat and in the feature race today. But Greg, it looked like early in the feature you had control of things, and then suddenly Edie was creeping forward on you towards the end. Was that you just managing pace, or were the tires going away?
No, actually it was traffic ahead of me. Started to get a little bit of understeer, and then I was kind of waiting for the lap traffic to kind of yield, and took a little longer than I thought, and I think I lost almost a second and a half. Most of it at the last part of that. So, but that's racing. I think I had plenty of pace. And I think after we got past the traffic, I was able to hold Declan at bay. But he definitely gave it a good run on me. So I'm super happy with the result in the end.
Well, that explains it. Must have missed that moment of being tripped up. But talk to us a little bit about the starts of the races, both the heat and the feature. What the cars feel like out there with the cold tires?
Surprisingly, they didn't feel too bad. I had a lot of confidence in the set. It was actually a set that one of the iRacing guys shared on the forums, and I made some really minor tweaks to it. But he did a really great job on the set, and this is the first time I've been, I'm not an oval guy, so this is the first time I've been competitive on ovals, and I attribute a huge amount of that to the set. I'll say something controversial, which I think is, the setup is about 90% of these races, honestly, in terms of oval. So, having a competitive setup, I think, really paid off this time.
Yeah, and I guess you could say that you survived the last oval race and did it getting max points. So heading off to Spa and back to a road course, now that you've got the points lead, are you home free to just sail to the championship, or are you still watching a rear guard quite a bit?
Oh, no, I'm assuming, is Steven still ahead of me? I'm assuming
I think you've taken over the points lead with this one.
That's sort of so shocking and surprising. I'm just going to keep doing what I've been doing, which is just trying to collect as many points as I can and push. I don't think it's going to change the way I'll drive or race. I'm just going to keep pushing. But yeah, I'm kind of shocked that I actually pulled ahead of Steven, so that's a surprise to me.
Well, I'm sure it'll be very valuable as you continue on the last two rounds, and congratulations on your fourth win in a row.
Yeah, thanks so much.
That was Greg Seitz, winner here today. Up next, DJ has caught up with Declan Eady, who made a race of it at the end.
Yeah, Declan, it looked like you were really starting to close in on Greg there towards the end, but as seemed like the case kind of across the board, got real hard when you were within about a half a second.
Yeah, I mean, I think Greg's right. It was just traffic. He really had the pace of the field today, but I was able to at least have a look, get within a couple tenths, and then he pulled it back out. But I'm glad we could give you guys something to speculate over. I don't think that's the fault of the heat racing. I think it's just USA is a tiny track and these cars have a lot of arrows, so it's hard to get a good pass in.
Yeah, it certainly does look a little difficult. Now, the other thing we were sort of speculating on in the booth was any concerns about tire wear. Obviously, track temps were pretty low, but 35 laps is a little bit longer than what you'd kind of anticipate to see in this heat race format.
Well, for me, I set my fastest lap. I want to say lap 11, lap 12. So, yeah, I was definitely you kind of got them warmed up and you got into a rhythm, and then maybe right near the end you had a wiggle or two. But I think most of the guys were running enough wing that it wasn't really a problem, which is, might make for a more interesting race. But as a driver, it's definitely good to not have that, nagging every time you send it into the corner.
I know that feeling all too well, my friend. So, looking ahead, looking forward, do you think you said you were able to put on a little bit of a race today? You think you'll be able to do any of that to close out the season in the last 2 rounds?
I think I can hopefully give you guys a show. I mean, if you take a quick look at the championship standings, I'm not really near the top. It's been a bit of a rough season, but I'm hoping that I can have the pace last 2 rounds, give you guys something to watch, and have some fun. I'm excited.
Well, we'll be watching it for sure, I'll tell you that, and hoping for a good show. Declan, congratulations on second, and anybody you'd like to thank on your way out tonight.
Yeah, I'd love to thank my team, RSR Esports, and G Performance, who make sure that we've got all the gear we need, and Velasquez Engineering, some great hydraulic pedals, friend of the team. He's a great guy. So yeah, Velasquez Engineering for your hydraulic pedal needs. And thank you guys for the broadcast as well, and PRL for setting everything up. So thank you.
Thank you, Declan. And now Joe Peak has caught up with our 3rd place finisher, Alex Guyon.
Yes, and Alex was the only one of the top 3 that didn't start within the top 3. So, Alex, what's the secret? How do you make passes around here?
I didn't know I had a secret until now, guys. No, I just wanted to be clean on the circuit and just don't mess up. I didn't want to mess up the race. I had a few sloppy races lately, and I deeply needed a few points.
Well, even though I don't know that Canada is as known for ovals. Obviously, open wheelers have a pretty good history with some fast Canadians up in IndyCar. Were you excited to get one more go at this and hoping to put on a good show today?
Yeah. I was curious to see what the heat format would do in PRL, but it was. I think it was a very good show for everyone. At last, we didn't spend 95% of the race behind the pace car, so obviously it's an improvement.
Well, and now it's back to the road courses, but Spa, incredibly fast, incredibly draft heavy. What are your thoughts heading off to Belgium?
I really like this track. The thing I don't like in Spa is that even if you pass someone, it's very, very hard to produce a gap between you and the other pilot because of the long straight and the draft. I don't know. I guess it's gonna be a matter of good pace and still just don't make any mistake.
Well, we'll hope that you can manage to keep it perfect. And again, congratulations on a podium.
Thank you, guys.
That was Alex Guyon, who took 3rd today. And that is going to wrap up our interview. So a big thank you before we go to our sponsors, of course, starting with Simulation Motorsports Affinity. If you want to check out how you can get involved in the world of sim racing, go to SIMMSA.net. And then there is NinjaTrader. If you like to trade, make sure and go over to NinjaTrader.com and look into their services. As well as for all your sim rig needs, thebuttkicker.com carries all kinds of cool products to fancy it up. And then thanks to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. And then finally, thanks to the team today, DJ, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Or there's also our social media outlets, Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. As we mentioned, in a week's time, we're heading off to Spa-Francorchamps. That'll be Thursday, February 25th at 9 p.m. Eastern for the penultimate round of the PRL Indy Pro 2000 series. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on your screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.